Yesterday's win for the Suns saw a couple of things that I've been begging for and really waiting to see develop in this series, in addition to something that's been popping for quite some time now since the latter stretch of the regular season that has trickled down into the playoffs that I've mentioned regarding Devin Booker and his drives. So let's go ahead and dive into some of the film from a handful of reps between those entities that I saw come forth in last night's win. All right, first play coming out the gate. I talked about coming into the series the advantage that Kevin Durant's elbow, mid post, and low post touches can present for the Suns. It's a way for them to set an advantage. It's a way for them to get into a position and invert their offense. And it's also a way for them to automatically put the Clippers in rotation outside of running things like pick and roll and other types of actions that they like to get into. Just using your player that you've acquired at the trade deadline is a top 5 talent in the league, regardless of what day it is, as an advantage. Just the fact that he's on the court. On the catch, they're not going to give him one-on-one coverage. And if they do, he's going to burn. He's going to win it like 90% of the time. So here to open the game, we see him with a semi-elbow touch. Ends up getting a good contest from Russell Westbrook, who was he's such a hound on the basketball court, especially defensively. He makes everything tough. You see him contesting the catch point here for Kevin Durant. He stays composed, gets the catch, and again, they don't send a double, so he's able to get into a quick one-dribble pull-up, and that sets the tone for the Suns to start the game. All right, and then this next rep here comes in the fourth quarter. They're going to, as you can see when the frame starts, you see Chris Paul communicating to Josh Okogie here. Empty that corner, empty the corner, keep it empty for the spacing purposes. So that when Kevin Durant gets to the catch, he can catch it without having to worry about somebody already being there on the flight of the pass. And then he has time to process, assess, and then make the right decision that he feels to exploit the advantage. So they get the empty corner pick here, and then they flip the angle this time. So actually, instead of going to the empty corner side, they go to the top side. So he's going to catch it, and he's going to have space to operate middle third if they don't send a double. As you can see, Kawhi Leonard off of the switch, gapping off of CP3, trying to show a body in that left lane. And then you see Russell Westbrook with gap help at the nail. Eric Gordon containing. They're going to end up sending the double, so they get the switch initially. And then as he loads up to make a move, they send a double from the middle third, from the nail here. And then who is that spaced out from where Russell Westbrook came from? That's Devin Booker. Overqualified for this role here, playing on the second side, playing off of an advantage created by somebody else. And because of it, he's allowed to attack a closeout here as Norman Powell tries to get in position, run him off the three-point line. Devin Booker gets to that left hand. And then his drives, this is something we're going to get to in the latter end of this film session, have been popping, creating advantages for both himself as well as others. And here he's able to get underneath here against the small ball Clippers lineup and get into this soft touch floater off of the advantage that Durant sets. And then here we're going to see the Suns get back into their empty corner pick and roll again between Chris Paul and Kevin Durant. Get the switch. And then this time, again, we mentioned the angle was flipped last time for Kevin Durant to get a catch topside in isolation. This time he's going to get it on the elbow in the empty corner on that side in isolation. Kawhi Leonard sends the double from the baseline on the flight of the pass here, as we can see him leaving from Bismack Biyombo. They put the double on Kevin Durant. And now let's talk about the process out of that. Kevin Durant does a good job with his eyes, using his eyes to tell lies, to move defenders, and open up advantages in addition to them already having two to the ball. As you see Man and Russell Westbrook trying to space and zone up on the second side. So Kevin Durant does a great job in addition to Josh Okogie here with the burn cut. The burn cut is like a vacuum in a sense. It pulls in the attention of Russell Westbrook, allows for the Suns to respace viably and exacerbate the advantage that they're playing within from Kevin Durant having two to the ball. So we got the Koji cut, Durant using his eyes to move Westbrook, and then respacing from the Suns outside of that. We got Chris Paul here overqualified to be a connector in any context of offense, being able to connect and make the next play the right play, which is getting it over to Devin Booker quickly while they're still maintaining the advantage. And because of the pace and the processing and the execution within the advantage, that rotation from Russell Westbrook is completely stretched as much as it possibly can, allowing for Devin Booker to get into the catch. If he wanted to pull this three-pointer here, he certainly could have. He was hot, had 18 points in the third quarter. He decides to attack the closeout, drive the closeout. And again, we're going to get into his drives in a little bit, but he's able to just completely exploit this closeout from Russell Westbrook and get into that mid-range pull-up. one of the highest percentage shots in the NBA for him specifically. And he knocks that down. And then here, we're going to start talking about something that I was just thoroughly excited to see as we see Ty Lue screaming 77 here. And 77, if you follow my page, that means double drag. So the Clippers are getting into their double drag. And what made me excited about this, first and foremost, was you get the switch here with Devin Booker. And Devin Booker was just saying no all game in terms of whenever he was trying to be quote-unquote picked on as a pigeon per se for Kawhi Leonard. He got all up into his airspace on the switches with aggression, with activity, with physicality, as we can see him navigating this screen here. And this is what you want. Before any type of scheme, containing the ball and doing so with activity and a requisite level of physicality to the legal limit on the playoff stage. We see that there. He's able to navigate that and terminate the flow of that action initially. They get into a rescreen, and this is the other part that excited me most. As I slow-mo it, we see DeAndre Ayton creeping out of what initially was a drop out of 77 on the initial screen. On the rescreen, he's now creeping up from that drop at the elbow way north of the three-point line, up to touch on the screen, and then he's able to kind of flat hedge and kind of recover, allowing for Devin Booker to get back into the picture. This is going to end up being a foul, but it's the process, because in plays prior, we saw, as we see this kind of flowing through, what DeAndre Ayton not being at the level of the screen conceded for the Clippers, and specifically for Kawhi Leonard. So he comes off of this pick. Torrey Craig does a good job jumping the screen initially to keep it to the outer third. They weak this coverage here. But then after that, he goes under the screen. And that's going to be exacerbated by getting an under on Kawhi Leonard, but also DeAndre Ayton being in a drop. It's almost like he doesn't want to go outside of the three-point line here on this rep. And then they get burned by Kawhi Leonard on this play because of it. So fast forwarding back to the process that we started with DeAndre Ayton being at the level. This time he's there, and he's there super early. As you can see, before Kawhi Leonard even comes off of the screen, you got DeAndre Ayton up to touch at the level of the screen and kind of flat hedging this time. So not a hedge and recover, not a short and recover. He's hedging all the way out until Torrey Craig is there. And then he's getting back in. And then we're going to look at the second side here, the weak side defense, as the Suns between Chris Paul and Devin Booker communicate who's the low man. They communicated. Chris Paul is now responsible for tagging the roller. He's going to jam that airspace as DeAndre Ayton and Torrey Craig navigate the Kawhi Leonard pick and roll, and Devin Booker zones up. They're able to keep the defensive shell intact, terminate the dribble of Kawhi Leonard, and then rotate out with this X out off of the pass. And now, again, they keep the defensive shell intact, and the job's not done yet because you still got to finish with the last 11 seconds of the shot clock. They're going to kick it around. Good job running Eric Gordon off the three-point line here and recovering from Devin Booker. And a good switch here, as you can see. Look at the switch. That is just amazing, astute, timely defense from the Clippers, especially between, of course, DeAndre Ayton, who's sitting here at the nail waiting for Eric Gordon, but especially Chris Paul and Devin Booker late in the shot clock. To switch that flattens out the action and the threat of Eric Gordon getting a paint touch and getting to the basket or drawing a foul. And then they have to take a late clock contested three here, as we see Kevin Durant getting up a great contest there on Nicholas Batum, who has not been hot at all from deep. They get the stop. And then the job's not done, though, because they don't get the rebound. But look at Chris Paul here. Again, this is just competing, man. Zubac gets the rebound because of the switch that occurred and the lack of positioning and lack of pursuit of the ball from the Clippers, or from the Suns, on this rep. Beats everybody to the ball, but he brings it down. And if you bring the ball down around Chris Paul, he's going to exploit it every single time. Jars it free with his hands. His hands are one of the wonders of the NBA's history. And he's able to jar that free, and then it gets to the floor, and this ends up being a jump ball. This is the type of tone-setting defense and activity that you need from everybody on the floor, but especially from one of your leaders. And all rooted in DeAndre Ayton being at the level of the screen and forcing the Clippers' actions off script and playing within their advantage for the Suns' defense. And now let's get into the Devin Booker drives part of this film session. His drives have created a lot of advantages both for himself as well as setting the table to create advantages for others off of the attention that it garners and the paint touches especially. So as we kind of get into this first drive here, we're going to see him kind of flying into the picture here late, kind of getting into the play after the head-to-head pass from Chris Paul to Kevin Durant. And then he's just going to, boom, attack a closeout instantly, get a paint touch. There's nothing there, so he's able to kick it out to Durant. The job's not done, though. Kind of in a Steph Curry fashion, he relocates off of the pass, and he's able to get a reaction advantage in a sense as Kawhi Leonard closes the airspace. and then he kind of resets, reassesses, doesn't see any help coming from the baseline, so he instantly goes back towards the baseline where he just came from, attracts the attention of 3 Clippers. We got Kawhi landing on his hip, then we got Zubac stepping over to put the fire out, and then we got Norman Powell here sinking in. He beats all 3 of these players. Splits Zubac and Kawhi Leonard on the step through. Good processing to understand where his teammates are. Gets this pass over the outstretched arms of the sink man Norman Powell and completely burns the Clippers defense with his pace, with his drives. Multiple paint touches within a matter of 7 seconds of the shot clock from one player. Speaking to the level of activity and the energy levels being exerted from Devin Booker. And again, he burns the Clippers defense getting his pass over to Torrey Craig. That's just an unbelievable play, an unbelievable level of exertion of energy and activity from Book. And then here, this drive was very important for me because it speaks to the evolution in his processing speed whenever he sees activity at the level of screen. So we got Mason Plumlee customarily here up to touch at the level of the screen, trying to flatten out any actions with someone coming off of a pick. So he gets that, but Devin Booker's patience, in days past and years past, he may have picked up his dribble here, and he might have even retreat dribbled. But here, he's patient, understanding what tendencies of players are. And again, patience within his process and allows for Plumlee to get back into his recovery. And he stretches it. And while he's stretching it, that's creating distance away from man, taking away his angle to potentially take away a drive threat from Devin Booker. All in his left hand. And as Plumlee retreats back to his positioning, Devin Booker essentially drives that same avenue, that same lane that was vacated from Plumlee, gets to that elbow, gets a touch, gets a little bit of a shove behind from man. They don't call a foul, however. Stays on balance. Look at the wide base into the pull-up. And he's able to elevate on the pull-up, fade away even, and knocks this down over the outstretched arms of Plumlee as well as Terrence Mann. This is an unbelievable bucket off of unbelievable processing speed, patience, composure, and just general feel that he's playing with. And then here on this last rep, he gets in at 77. And again, I spoke to the Suns needing to get to the Clippers big man in Zubac and Mason Plumlee early and often. They got to him late in the third quarter and then, of course, in the fourth quarter. And they were able to exploit those advantages and really get the Clippers defense to react and set advantages by getting to those front court pieces, which really forced their hand and Tyronn Lue being reactionary with a small ball lineup in the fourth quarter early. So we get Devin Booker in 77. He gets to Mason Plumlee again, and now he's on the island. And Devin Booker's patience, again, using his drives to set tables for advantages both for himself as well as others. So he gets the paint touch here, attracts the attention of Kawhi Leonard, steps over as the low man to put the fire out, and then he gets the defensive rotations from Norman Powell sinking in to help the helper on Kawhi Leonard in rim protection. Gets that attention, kicks it out to Chris Paul. Chris Paul immediately attacks the closeout created off of the advantage set by Devin Booker's paint touch on the dribble drive. Gets a second drive, and they're playing in paint to great, as Monty Williams likes to call it. And again, Steph Curry's name comes up again because he's the master of these relocation plays. We saw Devin Booker with 2, both off of the early play with the double drive that ended up in a Torrey Craig 3, and then a drive from him that's followed by a second drive from Chris Paul. While the Clippers defense is rotating and scrambling, that creates a separation for Devin Booker to get into this relocation 3 here, top side, and he knocks that down. We just saw a lot of the Suns' evolution on display in this win over the Clippers in Game 2. And if they can continue to put forth this process on the offensive end while blending in what we saw from DeAndre Ayton in activity and aggressiveness and dictating on defense, that's the avenues for this team to go ahead and take care of the Clippers in this series in a timely manner.